Meet Donna Rotunno. She's one of Harvey Weinstein's lawyers. They call her the Rottweiler. She has a formidable record defending men accused of sex crimes. Before yesterday, she'd lost only once. She reduced one of the two main accusers in the trial, Jessica Mann, who told the court she was raped by Weinstein in 2013, to tears during hour after hour of relentless grilling. Rotunno, for her part, has said she's simply asking questions to get the other side of the story. She believes that the Me Too era has brought an overcorrection that have left many men vulnerable and open to false accusation of sexual misdemeanour. She talks of what she calls celebrity victimhood, where women no longer have to take responsibility for their actions. The lead prosecutor for Weinstein had very little in the way of forensic evidence. Instead, her team established a pattern of predatory behaviour, using the words of women as supporting witnesses. The decision by the Weinstein jurors yesterday to convict on 2 counts and find not guilty on the other 3 is perhaps a landmark for our understanding of what testimony is admissible in court. For some, it was a testament to the collective power of women's voices at the core of the Me Too movement. For others, it will open whole new conversations about what kind of evidence now becomes admissible in court. Well, before we came on air, I spoke to Donna Rotunno, and I began by asking if she accepted that she'd lost yesterday.
Well, I mean, how can I not? I mean, I hear the words guilty, and I know that that's a loss. Obviously, the most serious counts that would have landed him in prison for life were not sustained, and so we feel okay about that. But you know, from my perspective, I didn't want to lose any counts. So yes, I'm well aware of the situation, and it never feels good when not only you give something your all and you work as hard as we did to have this outcome, especially when we have been very successful in these cases in the past, but nonetheless, it is what it is. But what I will say is the fight is not over. There's a reason we have higher courts in this system, and we will be taking the case there.
And are you still insisting that he is innocent?
I am, and I'm insisting that because I look at the facts and I look at the evidence, and that's what I believe the situation shows.
But as of today, they are crimes, and a jury convicted him. Are you saying
absolutely
the 5 men, the 7 women were wrong?
I'm saying that the 5 men and 7 women were put in a situation that I think is difficult. I think asking anyone to be the group of people to find Harvey Weinstein not guilty, given the fact that he was convicted in the court of public opinion long before we picked jurors, I think was a difficult task for anyone.
You wrote an op-ed for Newsweek. The judge accused you of doing something that was, he said, tantamount to jury tampering, trying to direct the jury. He told you to back off, essentially.
Well, that was really the allegation of the prosecutor. And, of course, that was never my intention. And if jurors are paying attention to the media, then they are the ones violating the rules. I said nothing in that op-ed that I didn't already say in my closing argument. That was a commentary on the justice system as a whole. It was a metaphorical piece about the way America should view the system, and it was not a conversation to the jurors in any way.
Your tactics in the courtroom, you cross-examined witnesses to the point where one had a panic attack and broke down. Are you comfortable with that?
Her having a panic attack didn't have anything to do with the way that I questioned her. I was very polite. I was measured. I was kind to her. I asked questions that needed to be asked.
She was in uncontrollable tears. Your critics accused you of taunting her.
The critics need to understand that in America we have a system of justice that allows people to be to have the presumption of innocence, to be viewed as innocent until proven guilty. And it is my job to ask questions that are not asked, that were not asked, to ask questions that needed to be answered, and that's exactly what I did. Women are just as equal in society as men are, and women have choices that they can make. And in this situation, there was a lot of manipulation going on. And, to claim that Mr. Weinstein was the only one that could be the manipulator is false, and it does not give women enough credit.
So when you're talking about manipulation, now when we heard the testimony of Mimi Haley, she said, he held me down on the bed and forced himself on me. Now, how could that possibly have been unambiguous?
So are you saying that every person that makes these claims must be believed and that there's no way for us to question them? I think that that's an outdated view. I think, frankly, when a woman makes a claim and then the next day gets in a car driven by somebody sent from Mr. Weinstein, then gets on an airplane with tickets that are purchased by Mr. Weinstein, I think we have to look at whether or not the claims of what she say took place in that room actually happened the way she's now reframing them to be.
The jury heard the testimony of those two women, and they believed them.
Sure, and the jury has every right to do that, and the higher court will look at it. I respect the jury process, I respect the court system in the United States, and the jury made a decision.
I'm just asking whether maybe we have to accept that in cases where forensic evidence is slim, and that will often be the case in sexual assault trials, that you have to start to consider the sheer volume of allegations and the testimony when they show a pattern of behaviour. Would you accept that? Is that fair?
Well, I don't think it's fair, frankly. I think you have to look at each piece of evidence for what it is and each allegation for what it is. And, 10 bad allegations does not equal one good one.
Would you accept that something needs to change, or do we just carry on saying we haven't got forensic evidence, tough luck, off you go?
No, I don't think things need to change. I think we need to continue to evaluate evidence the way that we evaluate evidence. And I think
so no one gets convicted?
That doesn't mean no one gets convicted. And maybe the people that aren't getting convicted shouldn't be convicted. Maybe the people that aren't getting convicted are not getting convicted because there is not enough evidence to sustain a conviction. And if we start to blur the lines about what's reasonable doubt and what the presumption of innocence is, that's scary for you, it's scary for me, and anyone else that we may care about.
It's also scary, I would guess, for the women that come forward to try and explain their situation of rape and are constantly met with, there's no evidence, so we're going to throw your case out.
Then maybe women will start thinking differently about the way they report these things. Maybe they have to look at, not waiting as long. Maybe they have to look at, keeping, some more facts handy. I don't know what to tell you. All I can tell you is
Facts handy after you've been raped.
No, I'm saying that, keeping dates. I mean, obviously we saw calendars in this case. Obviously we saw, certain documentations. I mean, I think that there's ways, in today's day and age, people keep track of dates and times. We have phones.
I guess a lot of women came forward under the Me Too movement because they said, we haven't been believed before. We need to be heard and we need to be believed, and maybe one communal voice is what will finally shift it. I wonder whether you think of Me Too as a force for good.
If we start to allow an emotional system take over the system of justice, we're all going to find ourselves in trouble. And I look at things like Me Too, and of course I believe that every woman should be heard, but just because you have a right to be heard does not mean that you are automatically believed. And when you are a defendant in a criminal case, you are presumed innocent. That does not mean that people taking the witness stand are presumed to be telling the truth.
You told the Daily, the New York Times, that you'd never put yourself in a position where you could be sexually assaulted. What did you mean by that?
Well, that question was asked to me. That question was not asked about women in general. I myself have never put myself in a vulnerable position. That was not a question about somebody who is violently, found in an alley. That's not a question about a young child. This is a question about a, more of a date rape type of a situation. And all my comment was about myself and choices that I have made. It's not a commentary on other women. It's not a commentary on other people's circumstances. And I said I took certain precautions to not put myself in a situation where that could have been an issue.
You talked about an Oscar party, going back to a hotel room. It sounded like you were talking, for example, about some of the Weinstein victims or accusers or actresses. You weren't saying that women who've been in that position were somehow careless?
I'm talking about choices, and I think women make choices, and I think that if we create a world where women are devoid of choice, we are creating a much bigger problem.
The choice is between being sexually assaulted or not sexually assaulted because of the position you might put yourself in.
No, nobody ever makes a choice to be sexually assaulted. My point is that when you go outside and you walk around the streets of New York or Chicago or Los Angeles or wherever you live, you take certain precautions. You take precautions against potential robbers. You take precautions against, somebody who may be driving too fast down the street. All I'm saying is that in life, we need to take certain precautions. And so it's really just about women being able to take control. It's not at all about stripping women of control, stripping women of rights, saying women deserved anything. It's none of that. It's saying I need to take control. And if women want equality, they need to take control.
And part of that broader conversation, part of that taking of control, you suggested might lie in a consent form, the signing of a contract before sex.
Why not? Why not?
Just talk me through how that works then.
But why not? It takes away all of the ambiguity.
And if I sign the contract and then I change my mind and I say, no, I don't want to have sex, then am I breaking the contract or is he raping me?
I guess that's something that the parties will have to talk about in drafting the agreement.
I don't understand how it works.
You can do that many different ways. I guess that's up to the parties. I mean, obviously, when I said that, it was a little more of a tongue-in-cheek circumstance about the dire circumstances I think we find ourselves in. But when you really think about it, why is it a bad idea?
Donna Rotunno there. Well, we're joined now from New York by Rowena Chiu, Harvey Weinstein's former assistant, who accused him of sexual assault. Hers was not one of the cases in his trial. Rowena, a lot to unpick in that interview with his lawyer, but I'd like to go back really to yesterday, as it were. Your response to Harvey Weinstein and to the news that we've heard today that he's going to appeal.
It was a massive day. Yesterday was an enormous day, full of conflicting emotions, really. On the one hand, I was really awed by the bravery, particularly of the 6 women that stood on the stand on behalf of us all, but also of the almost more than 100 survivors that have spoken out about Harvey, and the circle of journalists, publicists, politicians, lawyers, each one whom have contributed, and some men also, to get us to a victory yesterday. So it was a really overwhelming experience to hear that verdict come through. And then also mixed, I think, with sadness that the legal system is flawed. I believe the legal system is deeply flawed. It certainly was in my situation in '98 and 2017. The idea that it did take 100 women to speak out and an enormous network of people supporting their claims before, Harvey is now up for between 5 to 25 years in jail. And I think that is partial justice, but I think it's a long road that we still have to tread.
It was a remarkable case in that the testimony of women included as evidence, even though their own cases weren't being tried. And you heard the flip side just now from Donna Rotunno, who thinks that trials like this, that don't depend on forensic evidence, will change what counts and how juries work. What would be your message to her tonight?
That's right. Well, it's interesting because there's a cry now for the statute of limitations on rape to be lifted. And in a case like that, then indeed the forensic evidence would be deteriorated, for much older sexual assault and rape cases. I mean, Donna Rotunno, clearly holds a particular position about women, about consent, about sexual assault. I doubt you'd find a Harvey Weinstein survivor that would much align with that. But, it's her job to defend her client. She has done so to the best of her ability. She speaks a lot about the presumption of innocence for her client, who was a defendant in this particular trial. But there seems to be, she seems to be erring towards a presumption of guilt, or at least a presumption of untruth on behalf of the 6 women that took the stand. And in many ways, those women had to defend their lives, their choices, their friendly emails. And it's incredibly difficult when, really they weren't the people that were supposed to be up on the stand. They weren't supposed to be the people that were up on trial.
Yeah. And this was a unique case, very high profile and very highly publicised. Do you think it has a trickle-down effect? Does it actually change the next woman who wants to bring her boss to account for his actions?
Right. I would like to think, it's often been called, the Harvey Weinstein criminal trial in Manhattan has often been called a referendum for the Me Too movement. And I would like to think that it has opened up new discussions about consent, about rape, about, the way in which men, it's frequently men, usually men and women relate to one another in society and relate in terms of, sexual relations. I think that it has sparked very interesting debates in these areas that I believe will continue. And from that point of view, I do think there's a trickle-down effect. I do think that rape laws are now being looked at in terms of, how they are brought to court, how witnesses are treated, how victims are treated. And I think it is part of a larger movement around other high-profile cases, such as the Brock Turner case, the Stanford swimmer case. That looked very much also at leniency around rape laws and, what happens in the case of a conviction of sexual assault.
Rowena Chiu, great to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.